Amazon just announced they're laying off hundreds of people in the AWS cloud division, citing infrastructure advancements. But that's not the end. I'm seeing estimates as high as 10% of the $1.6 million workforce could be on the chopping block by the end of the year. But get this is not just the entry-level employees and workers. These are not just the interns and college graduates. 25% of their L7s, basically high-level managers, are on the block. And this is perfectly in line with what CEO Andy Jassy wrote in a memo last month, which is that he wants to eliminate and limit the bureaucracy. Got to limit the bureaucracy within the organization. Today we're going to talk a lot about this, and it's because it's not just the bureaucracy that's happening, and it's not just Amazon that's seeing this. AI is impacting everybody, not just tech companies either. And I'm going to give you some examples here. But tech companies are definitely at the cutting edge of this. I mean, Microsoft just laid off 10% of its staff this year. 10% of its staff this year. And it's committed $80 billion to AI infrastructure. Also, they plan to upskill 10 million Indian workers. I actually covered this in a lot of detail. Put a link to the video here. But it is insane what Microsoft is doing. You definitely want to see all this happening there. 10% of the workforce sending all their workers overseas to India, tens of billions of dollars in AI infrastructure. It's really remarkable what's happening. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means, AI infrastructure, here in a few moments, because I think it's really important for us as men to understand what's happening, where money is flowing, where the big opportunities are going to be for us to either A, find jobs or build businesses or invest wisely. In any event, Amazon, Microsoft, they're not the only ones. There's more. Let's look at Amazon in a little bit more detail though. And I love this quote from CEO Andy Jassy because, and this is kind of funny too, when they laid off all these employees, they said, well, this isn't just for AI, it's for efficiency and blah, 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 a bunch of like political talk. It's not real talk. It's, you know, it's not you, it's me type of thing. It's not you, it's me. No, I mean, it's absolutely AI. It's cutting all the fat and then opening up applications and bringing on people that are actually going to be next generation thinkers. They're thinking about things in a different way. And quite frankly, if you're watching and subscribe to this channel, you're probably a different type of thinker. You're not the type of dude who's just showing up and clicking buttons and like, my job will probably be here in a year. You're probably thinking about, how do I get involved and how do I evolve what I'm doing? In any event, this is what CEO Andy Jassy said in this memo. He said, we will need fewer people doing the same jobs that they are being done today and more people doing other types of jobs. We will need fewer people doing some of the jobs that are done today. That's exactly what's happening. They're saying all these jobs, if we can't prove it, we're gutting you. Elon did this when he went in to the federal government. He said, tell me what you do. If you can't tell me what you do, then you probably don't need to be here. And one of the things that I've actually run into when I'm doing consulting for companies is a lot of people are busy. A lot of people are busy. They're searching for ways to be busy so they can get paid. So at the end of the day, they can say, this is what I did. But it's not necessarily just about being busy. It's about results. It's about working under leadership. It's about communicating well with others. If you're doing work just to do work, you're the type of guy who's going to be on the chopping block at a company like Amazon. You need to be going to your boss and saying, hey, listen, I use this AI agent to make my job 90% more efficient. I'd like to try to apply this to other roles. That's how you become invaluable within your organization or for your clients. In any event, a lot of these guys that are going to be laid off here in the coming years and months are going to be the kind of guys who are just being busy. Don't be busy, be productive. Understand, and by the way, if you're a business owner, it's really important for you to understand the vision of your company as a whole. My vision for what I'm doing with this program and with the AI update is to empower 1 million men to thrive and have financial security in an AI world. Because the reality is that with so much disruption, there's a lot on the line for us as men. There's a lot on the line for us, our wives, our families, our communities. They're counting on us to step up. And I plan on assisting you and millions of other men in that endeavor. In any event, Andy Jassy also said that they're relocating more resources to innovation and AI infrastructure. In fact, also in that June memo, he said that generative AI and AI agents will lead to efficiency gains, reducing workforce over the next few years by automating routine tasks. And that's just it. That's just it. No matter where you're at in an organization, you should be employing AI agents and AI to become much more productive, not to be busy. I'll give you an example. This goes back years ago to when I was a kid. I was a young teen. I was doing an internship at this place, and I was basically asked to sort papers. And I was sorting all these papers and cutting out all these holes and doing it in a very manual, one-by-one type of basis. And then another one of the older, more experienced workers in there, young woman, came in and she said, "What are you doing? Just do it this way." And she finished the task in like 5 minutes. You want to be the person who can finish the task in 5 minutes. You're more productive. And as a general whole, and I'm going to get back onto Amazon right now, we need to be thinking about how we can take more risks and have more opportunities in more places. I feel like the idea of I'm going to work at one job and that's the only place I'm going to work is very risky. I'm only have one client, I'm just going to work there. That is risky. Where I want to be is I want to be productive in implementing AI agents and systems within multiple organizations, some of which will be highly successful, some which won't. But the places that I'm highly successful will be a place for me to create financial freedom, for me to create a resume, for me to create receipts. And that's the way that I'm thinking. That's the way I would encourage you to think, because the world is changing very quickly. And the old model of go to college, get a job, buy a house is pretty broken, because there are going to be many, many layoffs. The Goldman Sachs anticipates 300 million jobs are going to be displaced over the next 5 years. Something I cite a lot because I think it's a pretty staggering number. So Jassy continued to highlight here, the CEO, Andy Jassy, continues to highlight that AI will change all the workflows, potentially necessitating fewer employees for tasks like code writing and customer support. And so again, there it is. Anyone who's in code, it is kind of ironic that when truckers were concerned about autonomous vehicles a few years ago, all the white collar people said, hey, learn to code. It's completely flipped on its back. Although truckers and autonomous vehicles are not, that's a big issue. That's probably something I should cover in a video. In any event, everyone's on the chopping block. AI is not replacing the blue collar, it's replacing the white collar. And it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be really tough. IBM also replaced hundreds of HR workers with AI. So we start looking at which roles are being replaced: customer service, phone service, coding. HR is in nightmarishly large trouble. I mean, I just mentioned IBM, but get this, I recorded an entire video on this. You definitely want to check this out. McDonald's has now outsourced almost all of incoming job applicants into AI. They've processed 64 million job applications using a program that was designed by Paradox AI. But what was crazy, and in that video you definitely want to check out, what was crazy is McDonald's wasn't the only company that's using this program. Wendy's, Chipotle, 7-Eleven, a bunch of hotels, retail outlets, they're all using AI to process job applications now. And they're saving hundreds of millions of dollars, which historically would have been going into the hands of the busy worker, the person who was processing those applications. It's all now being outsourced to AI. That is only going to accelerate. So again, now's the time to be adapting and finding solutions to those types of problems. What's also interesting in here is that while these companies are laying off people and implementing AI agents, they're putting in tens of billions of dollars into AI, more AI infrastructure. And when we talk about AI infrastructure, we're not necessarily just talking about the software that's necessary. It's about hardware too. It's about hardware. It's about data centers. In fact, Meta just announced a $100 billion AI data center in the heart of Louisiana. It's going to cost them $100 billion. It is the size of Manhattan. And this is another video that I recorded about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Put a link to it there. This is crazy. And they've already got more data centers. I mean, heck, Google, CoreWeave, Blackstone, they are all building data centers in Pennsylvania. They're spending about $90 billion to develop out Pennsylvania. And what I think is interesting when you look at this, what do Pennsylvania and what do Louisiana have in common? I'll give you a second. They have oil. They have gas. These are very rich areas in gas, because what do data centers need? Lots and lots of energy. They require massive amounts of energy. So when you think about where am I going to be investing, this is not financial advice, but this is what I'm thinking about. Where am I going to be investing in? Microchips, energy, cooling. How do you cool all this? So you need water. That's one of the cool things about Louisiana is they've got an abundance of water. They got abundance of oil. Elon is big on solar. So nuclear is probably something that really needs to be talked about. China's been building a bunch of nuclear power plants. But you can start to see the trend here in that as more and more companies replace humans with AI, there's going to be a much more significant investment in people that understand how to create these agents. And there's going to be a much bigger investment into building out data centers to process all of this information. And what I think is actually kind of exciting about this, in the place of a man who's trying to remain stable to create solutions to interesting problems in this day and age, what I think is interesting here is that as more data centers are built and as more infrastructure is created, the cost of these tools is going to reduce. And that kind of brings me to the point that I want to talk about now, which is how do we actually upskill? How do we stay relevant? And I talked about this a lot in a video a few weeks ago about how I'm saving 90% on app development by using AI. But what's interesting and the way that I'm seeing this is there are all these new problems that are being created in the chaos. There's so much chaos that's happening in the marketplace now. And so what I start to think about is, well, what are the new problems that are being created? What are all the new problems? And as these problems are created, it's up to guys like you and me to create solutions to those problems. The bigger the problem you're able to solve, the more you're going to be compensated. And those solutions can be anywhere from building software to putting your hands in the dirt and building data centers and digging power lines and getting government contracts. Guys, this is not small money. This is an insanely large shift in the entire global economy. It has the potential to be one of the greatest booms since the Industrial Revolution or since the Enlightenment. I mean, we're going to see massive, massive booms, and there are going to be so many new problems that are created that it brings up great opportunities for guys like you and me to actually thrive and find the opportunities, which gets me back to my original point. As all these data centers are built, it's going to become less and less expensive to use AI. Tokens are going to become much more abundant and much cheaper. At the same time, there's a big boom with all the companies that are aiming to get your usage and my usage. They want us to use their platform. So there creates a lot of competition amongst the top companies, although you might say the top companies are all in cahoots and they're all run by the same people, which, okay, that's a topic for another conversation. In any event, I expect that the cost of processing tokens will become less expensive as more data centers are built, as chips continue to develop, and as energy becomes more abundant. That could be a big threat to the AI boom, though, is if the cost of energy increases. We need access to cheap energy. That is crucial for this whole thing to work. You could see a potential where these data centers are built over the next 18 months to 2 years, and then a new government administration comes in that's not friendly to fossil fuels, that's not friendly to the oil from Louisiana or from Pennsylvania, which could be a big threat, because how are all these massive Manhattan-sized data centers going to operate without that data? So anyway, or without that access. So that's a potential issue. At the end of the day, though, that's not something that I can control. That's not something that you can control. So I want to focus on what can I control. What I can control is continuously learning, upskilling, finding interesting problems, putting my tentacles, as it were, and my expertise into all these different businesses and organizations. And then as we build out solutions together, I can have equity stake, I can have ownership, and I can have the skills that are relevant to pushing it forward. And I think that's what's important, guys. The way that you want to be thinking about the next decade is not how can I get paid for my time, it's how can I get paid for the problem that I solved. And that's the whole game. And you can do that by upskilling, using tools like Replit, paying attention to what's happening, investing. It's all about ownership, because owning things is going to become much more difficult as time goes on. Now is the time to start getting involved, getting ownership stake, and focusing less on being paid for your time and more on being paid for the problems that you can solve. That's where I'm at, and that's why I encourage you to think. I think that's the right way to look at this. You may disagree, and put that in the comments below. Because there are a lot of new problems, and I talked about this in yesterday's video, and I'll put a link to it here. But Netflix is starting to use AI in their video production, and the gates have been opened. It's going to come like a floodwater, and it's really remarkable. YouTube now, I don't want to go too far into it now, but check out this video from yesterday where I talk about what's happening in the film and the entertainment industry. AI is completely changing everything. You are going to look at a mass, I mean, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people that can't work anymore because all these production studios are going to go under. The old production model is broken. If I can use AI to generate avatars and special effects instantly, I don't need to pay hundreds of people to do a job. I need to pay dozens. Check out this video here. I think you're going to like it. See you in the next one. Peace.